Hey guys, now I know what it's like to be you. That's right, a lot of you write to me and say, hey, I watch your videos, I knew nothing about this gun and now I feel so educated. And that's how I feel today because these came in, a Hamada Type 1 and a Hamada Type 2. And my only comment is, what's a Hamada? Come check them out. So here we have these two rare guns. I'm going to explain how rare they are, and I really had never heard of them. Well, I had heard the name Hamada, but I didn't actually know what a Hamada was. These both came in on the same day from the same collector, and they're consignment guns. So these guns over here are more props than anything else because it's all part of the story. When it comes to Japanese handguns, we almost always, and I certainly would always think of the Type 14 Nambu, comes in 8mm. And then somewhat later, these were actually started in like the 1920s. And of course, they geared up and used them throughout the war. And then this was a later production, the Type 94. Both of these guns, in my opinion, had some serious problems. I find that often they're hard to operate. The bolts get stuck. The magazines are stiff, hard to get. That's very stiff, hard to get in and out, not well manufactured. The firing pins often break. I see the tip broken off of a large percentage of them. In my opinion, these are problematic. I always get collectors who write to me and tell me off because they say, I take mine to the range, I put 100 rounds through it, never have a problem. That's not been my experience. And then these, of course, were called the suicide gun, not by the Americans, but by the Japanese officers and soldiers that carried them because they had a exposed sear, that when you push this, the gun goes off. And thus, they called it the suicide gun. Just to demonstrate this, no finger on the trigger, but I happened to bump into a stick or a rock walking down the trail. The gun just went off. So that's how it gets the name, the suicide gun. So these had production problems. And the Japanese government, just like the US government, in 1941, when the war started for the United States, they took commercial manufacturers, as you know, IBM, General Motors, even the Postal Service, were all pressed into service of making weapons of war. And that's what happened here. Mr. Hamada, now there's going to be Mr. Hamada Sr. and then Mr. Hamada Jr. Mr. Hamada Sr. started the company in 1901, and he made hunting rifles and shotguns, did not make handguns as far as I can tell. And by the way, a lot of this information I got from Ian McCullum. He did a video on the Type 1 and Type 2 some time ago. I think it was about 2016. I went back and watched his video, and that's how I learned what I know about these guns and the background, the history. And there's a lot of detail because Hamada Jr. survived the war and actually talked all about his experience building these weapons. So we have a lot of information about the weapons themselves, and I think it's a pretty cool story. So 1901, they have Mr. Hamada Sr. starts the company. By 1940-41, the government, the Japanese government, comes to the Hamada factory and say, we would like you to start making military guns for military service. I assume they very willingly did so because they were probably loyal Japanese citizens. So the Hamada factory built this Type 1. Now, one of the props over here is an FN model 1910. And the reason I show you that is because this model, made by Browning, actually the FN factory, this would be for, the Japanese bought a lot from, they bought German handguns, but they also bought a lot of Belgian handguns because the officers would rather own one of these than one of these. So these were very popular, the model 1910, and we've had them with Japanese markings on them. I don't have one right now. So I just show you this as a model of what the Japanese officers like to handle. And according to Hamada, they kind of modeled it after the popularity of this. Now, mechanically, they're very different. You can see some similarities, but you can also see some distinct differences. But all that is to say, they wanted the size and the shape. This actually holds 9 rounds, which is very good. And it is 7.65, which made no sense to me. 7.65, the Japanese ammo is all in 8mm, so they make these in 7.65 because the Japanese did have a lot of 7.65 pistols with the German handguns and the Belgian handguns. But when they issued these and they go to a unit, of course now they have to provide the ammunition for it. So that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. This is dated, by the way. 18, which would be 1943. You just take the 18 and add 25 and you come up with the year 1943. The serial number is right in the middle of the range for the Type 1. They made about 4,500 of them. Now there's some interesting facts about that. Made about 4,500, but there are only about 30 known in the United States. It's estimated that all of the ones we know about are found in the 2,000 to 3,000 range. This is 2815, so toward the end of production. So we only know of a span of about 1,000 guns and 30 remaining. If there were 4,500 made, where did the others go? Well, according to Hamada and the interviews after the war, most of them were shipped to China and virtually disappeared. Like, we don't know where they are now. The United States never went in, captured those weapons. But the ones in this serial range, 2,000 to 3,000, this is approximate. It's actually like 2,200 to 3,000. About 800 guns were shipped to the Pacific Islands. So the ones that went to the Pacific Islands had the chance of being captured by the Americans and brought home. And that's why there's only about 30 of them known in the United States. We see this little milled out marking, which I think we have a picture of one here. It actually had a flower, which was the symbol for the company. It might be a chrysanthemum, but that flower is found on the earlier ones. This one, they milled it out to put the insignia of the flower inside, but on this one they didn't do it. And what I read, or actually what Ian discussed, was the fact that starting in 43 they didn't bother with the flower in the middle of the circle. So that is meant to be there. Also, when I first looked at this Type 1, again, only 30 known, that's really rare. If you think about it, rarer than a Singer. I thought, that's a shame about that scratch right there. Well, there is some scratches in it, but that scratch is not a scratch. You actually see an arrow and an arrow right in where the grip hits. And what that actually does is you line them up like you do with a lot of semi-automatics. You have to line it up in order to get the slide off, and that's actually how you take the slide off. So let's first take this lever down. This actually reminds me of the back of a Model 8 or a Model 9 on a Walther. Again, they're using a lot of German and Belgian handguns, so they have the designs, or they can copy some of the designs. This pulls down. There we go. Got it all the way down. So we just line these up and pop it up. Just almost like a PP or PPK. It's just, the difference is instead of pulling this down, you line them up. It comes right off. You can see the inside. We'll actually keep that apart. And then the rest is, actually this reminds me of a PPK. You got the spring, the barrel. Now the barrel comes off differently. This is a different design and unique to Hamada. It twists and comes off. It's a somewhat different design, but seems to work effectively, so we'll put that back together. Very simple design, easy to take apart. And now let's talk about the Type 2. I'll go ahead and put this back on. Pops right on. This pops up. There we go. See the serial number here, serial number here. By the way, what looks like a 0 in the beginning is actually a company logo. You can see it better here. It's actually a 0. It's a 0 with a, it's a Japanese symbol. So it's actually the Japanese symbol for the company. You can see that here, and you can see that here. It looks like a 0 here just because the stamp is not that good. I mentioned it holds 8 rounds here and then 1 in the chamber, so possibility of 9 rounds. And remember, it's 7.65. Oh, by the way, remember I showed you how clunky the magazine was. Notice this. Smooth as silk. Works great. Just seems like better quality construction overall. Here's the original holster. It's a little beat up, missing this, missing the pouch, but that is an original Hamada holster. And you can imagine how rare, if there's 30 of these known, there's, I'm sure, less of the holsters to go with it. But then this story leads to the Hamada Type 2. Because remember the criticism I made, turns out that I was brilliant on this, because I thought, why would they want a 7.65, blah, 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 you heard all that. Well, the military came back and said, hey, we love your pistol, great job. Again, they delivered 4,500 of them, most of them went to China and disappeared. About 800 of them went to Pacific Islands and 30 were captured. So that's the story of this handgun. But they came back and said, we love the handgun, but we really want 8mm because all of our ammo is in 8mm, and then we have to ship extra ammo just for this pistol. And besides that, the military prides themselves in wanting to have a little stronger round. Now, this is a mysterious pistol because all of the known guns are in the United States and they're all unfinished. There's actually only 17 of these known. 16 are in the United States and one outside of the United States. So only 17 known. And the highest serial number is 50. This one is number 25. I believe the magazine is matching. Let's take a look. I believe it was back here. Yep, there it is. Serial number 25. Highest serial number known is number 50. 17 known that to survive. All of them are unfinished. Now, the story that Hamada tells is that these were made in one factory and then shipped to another factory to be finished. But in this case, this whole lot, none of them were ever finished. So they're all in the white, unfinished. You can see the size is a little bit bigger, and it's 8mm instead of 7.65. So same millimeter as the Type 94 and the Type 14. So that all fits in well. So what happened to the others? They estimated that they completed about 1,500 of these guns, but the only serial numbers are found from 1 to 50. So what happened to the rest of them? Well, that makes an interesting assumption because what we found is these were shipped to loading docks to be shipped out to war, but the Americans were bombing every single day, every single night. All the ports were being bombed, and if a ship did happen to get out to sea, it was immediately bombed and destroyed by the U.S. Navy and Air Force, etc. So all that is to say, they were probably in crates, never delivered anywhere because all of them went to the bottom of the Pacific, except for the first 50. Why were the first 50 not shipped and the later ones shipped? We don't know. But only the first 50 have been found. They were found by U.S. troops, unfinished, in the crate. Americans grabbed souvenirs. 17 of them are in the United States. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Kind of an interesting story. You can see the difference at the top, and I think that was just a feature. According to Ian, he thinks it's a feature to make it a little bit lighter. That could be. It doesn't really help to pull it back there, so I don't know that that helps. And the other difference, well, you can see it pulls down in the back. So we pull that down, and there's no arrows to line up, but instead, I'll take the magazine out. That's what the magazine looks like. And by the way, that's the Type 94 magazine. You can see they're very similar, a little different there. Except this holds 6 rounds, and I believe this holds 5. 6 rounds, 8mm. We just pull this back a little way. There's no arrows to line up, so just pull this back a little bit, pops right up. Boy, that was easy. And you can see the inside is very similar to the other, just a little bit bigger. And remember that feature with the barrel? They continued that. I guess the military liked that design. And again, this is unique to Hamada, but it comes right off. Oh, and this is number 25. How about that? So we got an all matching. It goes here, pops on, slide, gets my glove, bites that, and then pushes that up, and then put the magazine. There you go. The Hamada Type 1 and Type 2. One other interesting factoid, again, learned this from Ian. Remember I said 1,500 were made, but probably sunk before they ever were delivered to China or any of the islands. But at the end of the war, the United States government said they found the parts for another 2,500 Hamada Type 2s. Never put together, they were just in parts at the end. But as Japan was rebuilding at the end of the war, they melted down all the parts and used them for new construction projects because they were short of steel. So they needed steel. They melted them all down, 2,500 of them, and that they were used for building other projects. So as a gun collector, I'm a little bit jealous that they didn't leave those 2,500 parts, put them together. They'd be worth a lot more in this configuration than in a building or in the bottom of the ocean. Now, we already have these listed on the website, and I only did this for educational purposes. I would never try to sell you a gun. But if you're interested in the values, these can be in the $20,000 range. But because they're even rarer than a Singer, you might want to check them out. I assume they would have good collector value. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned because you and I might need some more education.